I watched a documentary called The Selection Code, which is Tina Peters' story coming out of Colorado as a result of the 2020 election.
Where's it on YouTube?
It is on Rumble.
Rumble.
If you put in Selection Code, you'll get it. And it's a very compelling documentary. Tina Peters, it's a story, like it's made it under the radar for a long period of time. I've been following it, but I didn't watch the trial daily. She was an elected Colorado clerk whose, her role was to supervise elections. She had some legal obligations. And this had actually less to do with 2020 election, but 2021, Dominion was updating the software with what, I forget the term that they were using now, to update the software systems. And when you update software systems, it could result in loss of data, et cetera, much like when, with the FBI updates their cellular connections after January 6th, it deletes very important text messages between feds. So they were going to upgrade the system. Lost, as we need your phones. Upgrade January 7th. Oh, we lost everything. She was, not tasked with, but they were going to update the systems. Dominion was coming in to do this upgrade. She was tasked by law with not allowing the deletion of election materials for, I think it's a period of 25 months.
Okay.
So she says, all right, well, if they're going to upgrade the system and there's a risk of loss of data, whatever, we got to back it up or take a mirror image like what they did with Hunter Biden's laptop. And basically was getting stonewalled by, you guys remember Jenna Griswold, Psychopath McGee,
of course.
Secretary of State, getting stonewalled in terms of the ability to actually back up the Dominion, all the data, the election data, before they come in and do this upgrade. So she takes it on her own to mandate someone to do this upgrade. It's a technological thing, so she has to get an expert. Turns out that the expert she gets happens to be an FBI confidential informant. Don't ask any questions there because that never comes out at trial.
No, of course not.
She gets charged with, okay, if we can bring this up just so we can see the charges. This is an outdated indictment because there were two defendants and ultimately only Tina went to trial. But the charges.
How do we know about that informant?
Oh, because, that came out, but he wasn't allowed to testify at the trial from what I understood.
Wow.
But the charges are things like attempt to influence a public servant. And she gets charged with this 3 times because I guess she unlawfully tried to influence public servants on 3 separate occasions to gain access so that she could make this mirror image of the Dominion system.
She's doing what she thinks is right to save the integrity of the election.
She's doing what she thinks she's lawfully required to do, which is to preserve data for a period of 25 months.
Is she some deranged MAGA supporter in this position?
Well, it depends on who you ask, but the bottom line is she's a 69-year-old Gold Star mom. Her son died in a military it was not an operation, it was a display, like they were parachuting for an event, and his parachute didn't open, he died. Military Gold Star mom. No criminal record, 69 years old.
It's a woman who should be given benefit of the doubt because she's not a psychotic
She's
criminal.
a woman who was elected to her position, a model citizen, but falls out of political favor because of what she does. She goes in and mandates this guy it's surreptitiously or whatever, but it's either she's abiding by the law and preserving the data, or she's abiding by the law and not mirroring the data, and now she's getting prosecuted for having violated the law as relates to influencing a public servant, conspiracy to commit identity theft. So she has the trial. It's another one of these rigged kangaroo court show trials where you have an activist judge who, oddly enough, is a spitting image of Jack Smith, an activist judge who does everything he can to rig this trial against Tina Peters, excluding defenses, excluding witnesses. She gets convicted by a jury of her, quote, peers in the politically prejudiced jurisdiction of Colorado. And then the judge sentences her to 9 years in jail. Now, do we have the video of the judge's tirade? It's an amazing thing. It's psychotic. I was watching.
Judge
This is just only the first minute and 2 seconds. This is the judge who basically fixed the trial in as much as you can, setting it to a jury, rigged it so that she would get convicted, and he sentences her. So the
is
jury,
he a this guy's, I'm pretty sure he's a Democrat.
There will be no. He's unhinged.
Okay.
So I'm. Dude, when I first saw this video, I'm listening to this like, oh, the prosecutor's talking because nobody talks like that. It's sort of like a potato quality video, so you don't even know that the judge is talking.
Oh, but it's the judge.
It's the judge. Listen to this, and then we're going to break it down. Okay. Dramatic pause as he gets going here. Sigh.
You have no qualms with violating the court's orders because you're innocent, because you didn't do anything wrong. You were just doing your job
which, is relevant for men's.
You have no problem trying to kick an officer. Your explanation about what happened is preposterous. It's on video. You have no problem lying to officers. It's happened multiple times. They're recorded conversations. It's just more lies. No objective person believes them.
Get back to that.
No, at the end of the day, you cared about the jets, the podcasts, and the people fawning over you. You abdicated your position as a servant to the Constitution, and you chose you over all else. Yes, you are a charlatan.
You're a charlatan.
And you cannot help but lie, as easy it is for you to breathe. You betrayed your oath for no one other than you.
Yeah, we could pause it there.
Could Trump pardon her?
No, it's a state-level conviction, so he can't. And don't rely on Paulus as the governor of Colorado to.
Forget it. They're all hated.
No. But so you have this guy. There was at one point in his diatribe where he basically refers to her words being worse than violence. He says, what you've done is worse than some of the violence that this court sees on a regular basis.
Yeah, tell somebody that's a victim of violence.
Well, no, but no. Yeah, so I put out it's a sick joke afterwards. The average convicted rapist sentence out of Colorado is less than 9 years.
I was say 5.
And
kidding.
This guy comes out and she gets convicted on 3 counts of influencing a public servant, which. You read what that means under the law. I won't even do it now. It's incomprehensible to anybody, let alone standard non-legalese trained people. She gets convicted thrice. The judge has the discretion to run sentences concurrently or consecutively at the same time or one after the other. He runs these convictions one after the other in 2 cases. 3 years plus another 3 years to be run consecutively. At the end, he's like, after he's diatribe in conviction and sentencing, which is worse than rapists, convicted rapists, he says, did I forget anything? And the prosecutor says, oh yeah, you forgot one conviction on conspiracy to commit identity theft. Yep, another 15 months consecutive. 9 years for this woman who's 69 years old, non-violent conviction, first-time offender, Gold Star mom, and what she's accused of having done was back up the data, the software of the Dominion voting system. And apparently what has been confirmed by multiple people, not by myself firsthand, is that Dominion did in fact delete or lose information in their update.
Oh, weird.
And so she
knew it was going to happen.
She knew it was going to happen, or it happened, bottom line. And her defense, and it's not even a defense, it's, we live in an era where we have so many laws. It was some Greek philosopher said, Cicerus, what's his name?
Cicero?
No, Tilius. I think it might be, whatever. It's one of the Greek philosophers says more justice, more laws, less justice. And Elon Musk was talking about this with Tucker Carlson. You actually have conflicting legislation. One is anti-discrimination federal legislation, and then the other one is you can't hire people who are not vetted for certain military contracts. And so Elon's saying, I will be convicted one way or the other. If I don't hire migrants to this protected project, I'm going to be sued for discrimination. If I do hire them, I'll be sued for violating proper backing.
Yeah.
We're at a state level here, but bottom line, Tina Peters believed, rightly or wrongly, that she needed to back up the information to protect it from unlawful deletion within the certain 25-month period. She did it because the state refused to do it, and then they prosecute her for it. There was a detail that the information was uploaded to the internet, and for crowdsourcing the information in terms of everyone looking into it, that whether or not Tina's guilty of that or responsible for that, separate issue. The bottom line, the sentence is a politically charged outrageous injustice. That diatribe by the judge should be put on the utmost of blasts, because what this is political vengeance and a warning to everybody. Show up to protest, we will lock your ass in jail.
20 years.
20 years. You challenge elections, we will lock your ass in jail. Unless we lose, of course, and then we're going to challenge them ourselves.
Of course.
So my mission of the last 2 weeks since the conviction and the sentencing has been to put that outrageous verdict on blast and to tell the story, because I think what the judge did was so over the top that any reasonable court of appeal, even in Colorado, is going to have to say, we got to tamp this down so that it doesn't look like we're locking up grannies for nonviolent crimes for longer than convicted rapists.
How long?
Which they are.
Which they did.
Yeah.
They did.
So, Dave, how long does she have to do the appeal?
The appeal, I mean, they're going to do it. It's a no choice in this.
You have to.
But there's when that judge was giving his diatribe, it almost felt to me like he thought he was going to get praise and adulation from the general public. Yeah. And when that video went viral, luckily, I think there has to be social, political, court of public opinion backlash, because this is not justice. This is literally what they accuse Russia of being, North Korea of being. It's like Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 13 years hard labor after a 1-hour trial. That's ridiculous. This woman sentenced to 9 years for influencing a public servant, for doing her job in her own mind. Mens rea in criminal law is a relevant thing. It's actus reus, having committed the illegal act, and mens rea, having had the intention to commit the illegal act. She thought that she was doing what she needed to do under the law, not in violation of the law.
What? Kind of good.
And they would accuse you of trying to incite violence against this judge for putting his face and his words out there. Of like, this guy who went on this whole dramatic monologue condemning this woman. When you say, there needs to be court of public opinion backlash, they'll try to spin you into a domestic terrorist for that. Basically what you're saying is, if you see him at a gasoline station, at a restaurant, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on him and let him know he's not welcome anywhere anymore.
I am no Maxine Waters.
It's only okay when a black Democrat does it. I see. But like you said, the fact that rapists in Colorado are not getting 9 years, and this woman in her 60s who's a first-time offender who did not have intent to commit an illegal action is getting punished like this. But insane.
It's insane, and what's insane, particularly about the diatribe. First of all, everybody who ever knows me, it's like it's not even avoid violence as a matter of principle, yes, but also as a matter of strategy, because harassing works if you're a Democrat and you have that political permission slip. It doesn't work if you're on the right, and so don't do it, because A, it'll land you in jail for the rest of your life, and B, it'll reflect poorly on the movement as a whole. But when he comes out and says you're a charlatan, and I had to Google the word, it means someone who thinks that they know something on a subject of which they know nothing. It's illustrating that this judge came in.
I'm a charlatan. Sorry, I just realized.
Rob is such a charlatan.
As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, that pretty much identifies me.
We hear the good. That's actually the good Charlotte, not the good charlatans. But whatever. The bottom line, that diatribe illustrates such a preconceived illustration of guilt. This guy wanted her to be guilty from the get-go.
Yeah.
He came in with her guilt in his mind, but he couldn't find it, so he had to rig this trial.
Well, think about the implications of what he said also, because what was it? Something to the effect of, no objective person would think you're innocent? Or
no objective person would believe your lies about the election.
I don't know. You're pretty unattached from this, and I would consider you an objective person looking at it. But the judge's condemnation is against you. It's against
the judge.
It's
biased.
against all of us.
No, it's even worse.
That.
The judge's condemnation is an affirmation of the legitimacy of the 2020 election at large, which do I believe that there was vote flipping and servers in Germany and the ghost of Hugo Chavez? No. Do I believe that it was not on the level? 1,000%. And I think we have sufficient evidence to know that right now.
Exactly.
It's like his diatribe is an affirmation of the legitimacy of the 2020 election.
Yeah, we're still waiting on Sidney Powell to unleash the Kraken in Georgia like she was supposed to. But it really goes to show, why did Tucker get fired from Fox? Because he caused too many problems with Dominion. He made allegations about them. They sued Fox. That whole thing had to get settled, and they fired him over it. She crossed Dominion by backing up this data. And the fact that this happened right before the 2024 election, I think, is extremely significant. Like you said, it is a warning. If you protest, if you investigate the election, if you raise questions, if you dare to suggest that our voting software might not be completely on the up and up, you get to go to prison for 9 years.
Yeah, who was the guy that Pat had on the show that showed how you can
Harry
hack
Hursty.
You could hack into any any system, computer can be hacked. And besides, guys, and people are like,
it took him 10 minutes.
Well, but they just had their the Village Con thing in Vegas where they hacked the system.
We had that
just
guy
over the summer.
We had him.
We had that guy on PBD podcast about
DEF CON,
3 weeks ago.
I know, and the conclusion was yes, there are vulnerabilities, and yes, we don't even have enough time to fix those vulnerabilities before the 2024 election. But the bottom line, so no one thinks I'm a crazy election denier. 2020 was rigged in the exact way Time Magazine described it, except they called it election fortification, and I call it election fornification. When you change the rules, the ballot harvesting, the indefinite confinement, the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story, that is an illegitimate, altered with election. Whether or not it was Dominion per se, we have known of problems with electronic voting forever. Even the Dems were reporting on it up to 2019. And Tina Peters crossed the line. And whether or not she did anything wrong, this is the other thing. She could be guilty of what you think she did. 9 years is not. The judge said, "Why I can't give you probation? I can't give you probation because you haven't licked the boot of Big Brother and said I love Big Brother."
Wow. And dude, that's 9 years. Dude, she might not make it. She's almost 70 years old.
There has to be an intervention from the Court of Appeal, if only on the sentencing. But the verdict itself should be overturned as well, or vacated, because there was serious chicanery in that trial.
Yep. All right. Well, go ahead. Say something.
No, earlier, before we were talking about you fled Canada from what?
From communism.
Communism, and then you moved to the United States, and it sounds like
And they're trying.
Well,
communism is maybe you're the commie.
No, but
and you're
well,
bringing it with you
son
from
of a-
Canada.
we get accused of bringing the bad weather, but no, the reality is, when I was covering the trucker protests and I'm talking to people who fled communism, and I say, like, are you going to go back home after this? And they say, I said, if Canada falls, you go back home. And it's like, if Canada, where the hell do we go? We're not going back to these places.
Yeah.
And if Canada falls, and if America falls, there's nowhere left to go.
Yeah.
Canada may have fallen, or it may be beyond the event horizon of communism. If it comes to America, there will be nowhere else to go.
Well, that's what happens when you have the bastard son of Hugo Chavez or of Fidel Castro running your country.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that, I'm convinced.
Well,
He looks more like
uncanny.
Fidel Castro than Pierre Elliott Trudeau. If anyone's never seen those images.
great pronunciation. The fact that you gave him the Trudeau.
Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
I wouldn't give him that. I call him Trudeau. So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.